Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Sip, Sip, Hooray, the podcast for thirsty people looking for great stories about wine and the cool people who make it. On today's show, we're talking fine wine, fast cars, and good times in Monterey County. That's where our guest winemaker Russell Joyce is located. Russell got the winemaking bug from his father, and now he has a son of his own and is eager to share his passion for farming and winemaking with him someday. We're so happy to have Russell as our guest. We are the two Marys who like to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm Mary Babbitt.
And I'm Mary Orlin. Russell's family ended up in California's Monterey County thanks to his father's love of car racing and the nearby Arroyo Seco racetrack. Ever since, Russell's been in the driver's seat of his family's grape growing and winemaking endeavors with a commitment to minimalist winemaking and working with organically grown grapes. He's also helping to preserve the past, recently having acquired a historic winery property in southern Monterey County, what we know as Arroyo Seco. This past summer, Mary Babbitt and I had the pleasure of spending some time with Russell at his wine tasting room in Carmel Valley Village, and we got to taste a few wonderful, wonderful wines and get to know him. But we are so excited, Russell, to have you on the pod today. Welcome to Sip, Sip, Hooray.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We are really happy that you're here with us today. And I'm thinking, as we try to tell your story, should we start with cars or do you want to start in the vineyard when you're a little boy?
Well, I mean, we can kind of start how I found myself to be here in Monterey County. So I was born and raised out in the small town of Carmel Valley, which is within the greater Monterey County. And you know, my dad had planted a small vineyard behind our house to help with erosion that was happening. And, you know, growing up, I was basically required to work in that small plot, just a couple acres, you know, and really kind of see all the hard work and everything that entailed. You know, fast forward to when I was a teenager, when I just wanted to be off goofing, you know, with my friends. I was still required to work in that small plot. You know, so it really kind of, it taught me, you know, it grounded me, it taught me my work ethic. And that's kind of what I attribute everything I have today from learning those lessons early on. And that's what, you know, has really, you know, kept me here in Monterey County and inspired my passion.
That's really great. And so that's something that you got to work on together with your father. What was that like?
It was difficult. It was it was very challenging. You know, having two strong personalities, especially a father and a son. So I won't deny that it didn't come without its challenges. But you know, fast forward to where I'm at now. You know, I'm really grateful I had those experiences because it really, again, like I said before, you know, distilled the hard work ethic that I have. Mm-hmm. in myself. And, you know, it really kind of was the catalyst, you know, that really kind of began my passion, which, you know, without that, maybe I would have never found.
Isn't that true? I mean, sometimes it's the tough stuff that leads you to finding, I don't know, you find the joy in the tough stuff, and the harder paths are sometimes the more rewarding.
Yes, exactly.
So tell us, so your dad you planted vines just for erosion, but he had fallen in love with race car driving, and that's how you guys ended up there?
Yeah, he came to Monterey County from Wisconsin and South Dakota, you know, to pursue his you know, dream of becoming a professional race car driver. You know, he actually got quite far and did quite well. You know, eventually he had, you know, to really find out how he was going to make a living and settle down and support a family. So he was also in tandem going to school to be a dentist. And, you know, that's why he, you know, fell in love with Carmel Valley and the Salinas Valley, because, you know, he was able to work in Salinas as a dentist, but also pursue his, you know, his race car driving, you know, goals at the local racetrack Arroyo Seco here.
Very cool.
Nice.
So what was your involvement, um, and how did you really learn the ropes of winemaking?
Well, we used to have a small shop, barn, whatever you want to call it, on our property in Carmel Valley. And basically, when I wasn't kind of working tending to the vines, or being ordered to tend to the vines, I should say, I was I was busy, racking and returning, wine barrels, taking care of the wine barrels, popping, and learning things, basically just basic winemaking, at its basic level. It was not fancy. It was definitely, I would say, more cowboy in style,
Mm.
Mhm.
technicality, and kind of chemistry background. I don't have any of that. I'm pretty much just self-taught with all that sort of stuff. He did go to Davis and take, continuation courses on, wine growing and winemaking. So I was able to, get, some information, out of, some valuable information that I was able to use and translate into to my work. I was also lucky to have, friends and which, then their families also became a little bit of mentors to me as I started to get older. Because I was never afraid to ask questions or ask for help.
Oh, that's great. And that's so important to be able to reach out. And, it seems like you've got a really strong winemaking community there in Carmel Valley and Monterey County.
Yeah, it's definitely, it kind of has ups and downs because brands, some succeed, some don't. But, I think at the core, there's definitely people, and a lot of older gentlemen that I grew up with me, and they kind of, laugh now because they, knew me when I was basically running around in diapers, to see me, with my full blown operation, and, really at a level that probably shocks them because, they just remember me as a small kid. But, a lot of those, older gentlemen, Dan Carlson, being one of them, are really kind of pivotal and prominent in my kind of journey to making a success of this whole thing.
And
What's the point at which you said, sorry, Mary, but what was the point at which you decided that you wanted to actually become a winemaker and pursue this?
Well, that's a really good question because, my life has been interesting, and, I've always had like I said, a good work ethic. I've always had a very passionate side. I was passionate about food. At one point, I thought I wanted to, maybe possibly become a chef. I always had some sort of artistic outlet that I kind of needed to satisfy. And I think as I got older and I got over the frustration of just having to work all the time, being forced by my family to work all the time, and I got to an age where, a little bit of maturity started to set in. It was really, I kind of found, winemaking and just the whole business in general, just kind of my artistic outlet. And I was able to use some of my, energy and focus in it in that direction, and instead of, using it towards things that wouldn't benefit me in my life.
So tell us how you decide what grape varieties you want to work with and what vineyard sources you want to work with.
Another interesting question, because again, that creative side, that I'm exploring in winemaking and still exploring, every day. Really, we started out just making Cabernet out in Carmel Valley because it was a little bit of, it's a little bit warmer out here than closer to the coast, or, along River Road in the San Lucia Highlands. It's a little bit more, open to the, the great Monterey Bay. So you get a lot of marine influence on that side. And it's a little more protected in Carmel Valley. So anyhow, kind of started off making Cabernet, and then Pinot Noir. And then I really fell in love with Pinot. That was really kind of my first love in terms of a grape variety, a wine that I like to drink, and a wine that was, for me, and still to this day, difficult to make. So I kind of looked at Pinot Noir as a challenge, and I wanted to basically figure it out. And so basically spent my whole life up until this point doing so. And then, choosing to work with different grape growers, I've explored a number of different, grape growers and different vineyards. And, they're all so unique and interesting because like a lot of areas in the central coast of California, Monterey really has a, tremendous range of microclimates. Also soil types, that really do affect the taste of the wine and the style of the wine. So it's just finding sites and varietal to that point that really suited my palate. Like a chef in the kitchen, what do you like to cook and what do you like to eat? And so basically I've spent, since 2000, about 2010 until now, trying to figure that out.
Well, and I think you mentioned that you like a challenge. To make a good one, Pinot Noir is very challenging.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you've succeeded there. But you also, in addition to Pinot Noir, you've chosen some really interesting varietals to pursue making. Among them, the Albarino we tasted, and then also Gamay. Should we talk about some of those?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely another, couple of my favorite wines that I love to drink and I love to make. I love, Albarino, especially in Monterey County, especially where we're at in Arroyo Seco, because it's very chiseled. It has tons of energy and freshness, and it's a wine that's alive, and there's minerality and salinity to it. A lot of that comes from the strong winds that blow from north to south, down there in southern Monterey County. Every day, it starts getting windy in the afternoon, and that really has a lot to do with it. And then along with the soil types that, the Albarino, at least that I'm working with, is grown in, a lot of river rocks, a lot of sand, and sand doesn't necessarily retain a lot of water. And so when you have sandy soils with river rocks, you basically get the soil drains very well. So there's not a lot of water retention in the soil. And that is kind of known to really attribute to like an earthy flavor, a minerality, kind of essence to the wine.
Sure. I was going to say, I know your Albarino to me has always had such great minerality,
Right.
kind of that stony minerality.
Yeah, I love that stony characteristic. Like you feel like you're picking up a fresh, wet river rock, out of the Arroyo Seco River, and that smell, and almost if you lick it and taste it, you can get that in the wine.
Right.
I love that. That's a great image.
But it's like that river rock right after the rain, that freshness, that
exactly. Yeah, that and then again, kind of both with the Albarino, and then I'll talk a little bit more about Gamay, but just really great aromatics. There's down specifically in Arroyo Seco, and I would kind of say Monterey County as a whole. You have a slow ripening curve. You have a cooler climate. You have the influence from the Monterey Bay, and so that slow, elongated ripening curve, really just allows for such tremendous, aromatics. If you handle the fruit, well in the cellar.
And being with your love of food, what would you pair with your Albarino?
Oh, I love Albarino with anything seafood, especially oysters, abalone, lobster. I mean, any type of shellfish, crab. It's really just kind of, it's such a compliment because, again, the aromatics and acidity and kind of the salinity to the wine kind of cuts through, some of the flavors in the seafood, and it just really kind of enhances the whole experience.
The salinity would really complement that salt note that you often get in shellfish, especially.
Right. You get like a brininess.
Yes, the
Kind
brininess. Thank you. That's the word I was
of
looking for.
it goes hand
Yeah.
in hand. Yeah, it's tremendous.
And do you find that your customers are familiar with Albarino, or are you having to educate people about this really lovely white wine, but it's not, people think often they tend to just go Chardonnay,
Right.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, that's, I love that you asked that question because I watch those trends very closely. I love Chardonnay and Chardonnay is, beautiful wine. I have to say though, that from what I've seen, in my little own world, and a lot of people are going to have different experiences, but I have more people venturing out looking for things like Albarino, getting away from the Chardonnay, or maybe saying, hey, can we, pass on the Chardonnay and taste the Albarino?
Nice.
It's more common than not. And we do, we make some great Chardonnay and do some great work with that varietal. We also do make a great Sauvignon Blanc, and it's really, the Sauvignon Blanc small. It's only for direct to consumer only, but and that's a great white wine too. But I really see, people venturing out and kind of catching wind that Albarino is just a great alternative white wine if you're looking for something bright and fresh and mineral driven and aromatic. It's a great option.
Well, we always talk too about the discoveries of wine. And it's so fun to find something new for you that enhances your enjoyment of wine, right? So you don't have to just keep going back to your tried and trusted. I know I'm going to be happy, or I know what this is going to taste like.
Yeah.
Part of the experience with wine is getting to know different varietals and different wine growing regions and what they taste like.
Exactly. No, that's kind of at the heart and soul, the joy of wine,
Exactly.
Absolutely. And the other wine we enjoyed with you, Gamay, and let's talk about Gamay. I don't think many people know it. It is the grape of the Beaujolais region.
Right.
And one thing that I was excited during our travels through Monterey County this past summer is Gamay is one of these up and coming red grape varieties that it's really exciting to see, and it's just delicious.
It is really good.
It's a red wine of just pure enjoyment, and really the style of wines that I like to produce and drink need to bring me joy, and that's one of the reasons I love Gamay. It can be playful, it can be serious, it can be a little bit of both. It's got great just red fruit characteristics that I love. The style that I create is 100% whole cluster. It's fermented what they would call carbonic maceration, so putting all the clusters together and filling the big tank full of CO2 and basically trapping it all in there and allowing all the berries, attached to the stems to go through their own little kind of miniature fermentations inside the berry. And it's creating, again, a red wine of, I know I keep using the term, but it's really what I do strive for. It's a red wine that, it just has this playful freshness to it, where it's going to be a little bit lighter on the, the alcohol spectrum. It's easy to drink. I love to throw it in the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes and put a slight chill on it. It's a great pizza wine. I started out making Gamay in San Benito because that's the only place that I could find it. And now, moving to Monterey, the Ventana partners on the vineyard side and I are planting Gamay together, another 5 acres. I have just prepped another 10 acres to plant, more Gamay and more Albarino, actually, because it does really, really well in Monterey. I know, the stuff that's being grown in the San Lucia Highlands is, tremendous. That's more of like an old world kind of fleury expression.
Okay.
Cru Beaujolais. I think the stuff from Arroyo Seco is also fantastic, just in a different way. It's got kind of, again, a little bit more kind of, I would just say earthiness and a little bit of herbaceousness because of the well-drained rocky sandy soils. And that's not to say I really think it could do well, all over Monterey County.
especially if it's happy there, and
Oh yeah.
you're not having to fight Mother Nature. If it does well there, then chances are, it tastes good there.
It's very happy. And there used to be a lot of Gamay in California, and it was pulled out to plant things like Pinot Noir. And not that, like I said, Pinot Noir is my first love, but I mean, Gamay is getting right up there for me because, it's fun to make. It's fun to drink. I think there's a wider range of expressions you can do with it.
Well, I think there's some similarities too between Gamay and Pinot Noir. There's,
absolutely.
if you're new to Gamay, if you like Pinot Noir, chances are you might like Gamay too.
Yeah, it's just friendly. It has soft tannins. It's not an overbearing wine. It just goes with such a wide range of foods. And so that's why I'm going to continue to make it, invest in it, plant more of it, and hopefully make it popular.
Well, I for one am super excited to know that there's going to be more Gamay and Albarino coming out of Arroyo Seco. That's fantastic. Yeah. So I just want to go back a little bit and set the scene for folks who are not familiar with Monterey County, Carmel Valley, Arroyo Seco. So because when I first met you many years ago, you were solely based in Carmel Valley, and Carmel Valley is to the east of what more people know, Carmel by the sea. And you had a tasting room there, but you expanded. So could you kind of set the scene for your tasting room and experience people will have when they come to Carmel Valley, and then we can get into Arroyo Seco after that.
Right. Well, it's been a long journey, and it's been one foot in front of the other. I started with a small tasting room here in Carmel Valley, and I still remember those days of working, the day job every day, and then going to pour wine on the weekends, and that went on for years and years. Fortunately, found a little bit of success and was able to convince my now wife that we should, expand and really make a go of this. And so when we had purchased a larger property in the Carmel Valley Village, we wanted to expand our tasting experiences. We opened up a great wine bar called the Wine House, and really kind of create a whole vibe and a whole experience for people out here, on a larger level, than we were able to previously offer. So, we did that and implemented it, and everyone's called me crazy, but it's worked out thus far, and we're happy with it.
Oh, and it's such a cool spot.
Yeah, it's just nice, when the fog rolls into the coast, you have a comfortable, casual place with great products that you can come and lounge outside and hang out. You can bring your dog, you can bring your kids. It's it's really enjoyable. People seem to like it a lot.
Such a fun vibe. We loved it. I was so impressed by that. And it was hopping too. People were a lot of people have found it.
Yeah.
They're glad you're there for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of become like the local hub out here, I guess, for lack of a better term, but
that's great. Yeah. And so, but then you also recently purchased one of the historic wineries in Monterey County, which is in Arroyo Seco, the Ventana Vineyard. And so tell folks where Arroyo Seco is in relation to Carmel Valley, and then tell us the story behind this winery that you've acquired and why you wanted to acquire Ventana.
Absolutely. So Arroyo Seco is going to be, over the hill from Carmel Valley, the San Lucia mountain range. You're now back over on the Salinas, in the Salinas Valley. As you're heading south on Highway 101, as you look to the right, you can see the almighty San Lucia Highlands. A lot of really famous winemakers and vineyards there, and wines coming out of there. And at the base of that, when you get to the end of River Road in the San Lucia Highlands, you run into the Arroyo Seco AVA. It's close, but it's completely different. Like I said, dramatic winds, extremely rocky soils, which can be a pain sometimes, but it really makes wines, like I said, possessing kind of freshness and mineral components to it. And so I had been searching around, for some property for some time. Had almost, done a couple different plots, but it's pretty hard to build a winery from the ground up these days in California, no matter where you're at. I found this, what I thought to be at the time, it was really a gem. It was, everyone who saw it, didn't believe that. I mean, one thing I would say I have, going for me is vision. I can see, something old and dilapidated and which looks ugly and kind of envision what it could be. And that's what we did with this place. So we worked out a deal and we purchased, this winery. It was completely, like I said, dilapidated. But one thing also that was interesting, I was looking to preserve my future in Monterey County, not only for me, but for my children, if they choose that path. And I was making wine in an industrial facility, which was great. But I really wanted to be out amongst the vines. I wanted to be in a rural setting. I wanted to, be able to be stirring Chardonnay barrels out in the sun, overlooking the terroir around me in which it came from. Because really when I went to France, it just kind of inspired me that was my goal. And that would be the goal, to hopefully create that for my children. So, anyways, we found this old property, the old Ventana Winery. It had been not in operation for, it must have been, 8 years or so. So it was completely run down. Ventana at one time was a big brand.
Right.
It was.
Over the time through ownership changes and so forth, it had just kind of, had run its course. And so I decided that it was time for someone, young with the energy like myself to take it on and take it to the next chapter. So we redid that. And last year was our second vintage, making wine at our new home there, which has, been great. We've rebuilt it. We've reopened it to the public on the weekends. And then we've hosted some great, winery events as well. And it's really kind of why I love it is it kind of reminds me of when I was almost too young to drink wine, but I would remember going to wineries with my parents, and it has an old school, old kind of Monterey County wine country vibe to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
The barn's over 110 years old.
Yeah, I saw photos on your Instagram account of the barn, and it's like inside you've left this, it open to the rafters and the roof, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I wanted to preserve that style and that, kind of that history as well. I guess, some say it would have been easier just to knock everything down and, rebuild it that way. But I kind of wanted to keep some of that, old school kind of, vibe that it has, and kind of honor a little bit of history.
And that's part of that vision that you have. You mentioned you have vision, but I would also add that you've got guts, because it takes guts to say, I can make this successful. I can do this. Yeah. Then there are doubters, but I'm moving forward with the plan. And I admire that so much, because it's scary and everything's expensive. So it's scary to take chances like that.
It was scary. And I won't say that it wasn't, it wasn't a trying couple of years, to get it to a place, especially, harvest only happens once a year and it doesn't really stop for anybody. So I basically had less than a year to get it for our first harvest, to get it into operational shape for our first harvest. And then, after that, kind of turn it into what it is now. But it did take a definitely a little bit of a grit and grind to really just kind of dig your heels in and say, I'm going to do this no matter what. And now I'm thankful I did.
That is so great. And so what's really cool is with Joyce Wine Company, people can have two completely different experiences. They can come visit you in Carmel Valley and have one experience, but then they can get the one out in Arroyo Seco is going to be surrounded by vineyards and that old school atmosphere with a barn and everything. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it definitely is a cool experience no matter where you go to, but definitely it's enjoyable at both, for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. What are the challenges of having, for lack of a better word, so many balls in the air? You've got the Carmel Valley place, you've got the Ventana location, and you've got a young family. You've got a lot going on, and tell me some of the challenges you face and how you get through it all.
Well, you drive a lot. that's for one. I've always been an early riser. So the day usually starts at 4 a.m. So I think, starting early has helped me to maintain, multiple places, because I'm able to give time to each one of them. And
4 a.m. though. 4 a.m.
Well,
it's just kind of ingrained in me. So it's not like I set an alarm. That's just kind of the natural time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do go to bed early. So
yeah. I mean, I thought I was an early riser, but at 4 a.m. you have me beat. I'm more like maybe 4:30, sometimes more like 5:30.
Yeah.
Oh
I wish I could
you
sleep
guys.
You have to go to bed early though.
I do go to bed early. Yeah. So so yeah, I would just say, being an early riser, and also, I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing because I think of specifically my son and now my daughter, a lot, that I want to, make them proud and build something that they can either be proud of. And if they want to be involved, that's fantastic. If it's not for them, that's great too.
Well, I remember you said early at the beginning of this show how there were some unhappy days when you were working in the backyard with your dad. And like, do you picture that? Or are you going to have a redo on that?
I'm going to have a redo on that, but probably do it in the proper way.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe with a little bit more sensitivity.
Well, as a kid who had to grow up on every Saturday, my dad, I was one of 5, and was like, get out there and weed the yard, everyone. And it was like, just the misery of it. We were always fighting with each other, and just like the misery of having to do the chore, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to make the chore fun. I do bring little Noah with me, and we, drive the tractor around, or, go, clean up, the winery, and, spray down hoses and stuff. And so hopefully I'm, sparking a little interest in him, as he gets older.
Yeah. Does he have fun when he's doing the chores around the winery with you?
Yeah, he does have a lot of fun. He likes just hanging out with me, but then also he really likes, even at a young age, he loves riding his quad around, and, kind of being out in that rural atmosphere. You can really tell he loves that. He doesn't like to be cooped up in the house.
And he's what? How old now?
He's only 4 years old, but he's kind of 4 going on, seems like 8. He handles himself. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, right now we're recording this in the spring. We mentioned visiting you in the summer. And since we visited you, we've just had this crazy wet year. And I'm wondering how things are looking for all of you. I assume your bud break is well underway, and any lasting damage from all that water, or will it all be okay?
I think I was very fortunate. My property is all okay. Especially, I mentioned I'm, prepping to plant this new small vineyard down there around the winery. And so when you're, ripping the soil, and I think that amount of water was really good to kind of get into the soil, flush out the saline, knock down the saline content a little bit, and really kind of, hydrate it and bring it to life. I mean, everything is just, I think everyone over California sees that. I mean, everything just seems so alive and vibrant, the colors, and it's just insane.
It's so pretty.
Yeah. So we were lucky. We have good drainage, and we were fine. I know some people, were affected, their homes and roads, down there in South County, which I feel, really bad for, because it definitely created a lot of challenges for a lot of people. And it's also hard to get work done when it's that wet. So unless you're working inside, you're kind of on a standstill outside when, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be happening in the vineyards and ranches and stuff. But it looks like it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Good.
And hopefully the weather will be really terrific and cooperate, and we'll have a great growing season and harvest season.
That's what we're hoping for.
Always. So, Russell, to get away from all this, to relax, what do you do to unwind and have fun outside of all the winery stuff?
Well, I do make time for that to keep my sanity. I love riding my motorcycles. I love, I've been, surfing in the Monterey Bay my entire life. So I love doing things like that. And I love to socialize and go out to dinners and, drink wine too with my wife and friends, and, we love big cookouts and barbecues, and, so we always make time for fun, because I'm not doing all this, work not to have any fun while I'm going through the journey.
Good for you. And you did mention to us before we got started that you had a little mishap on the motorbike. You want to tell us about your black eye?
Luckily this isn't live, but yeah, no, ended up with a little banged up face and a little black eye, but nothing that's going to hold me back. So I was lucky.
Yeah,
good for you. And yes, you were lucky. And I love that you're making time for recreation and making sure you put fun as part of the equation of your life, because as you said, it's a lot. You're getting up early, you're working hard. There better be a fun factor in there. There has to be. I actually think it's at least for a person like myself, it's essential, because everyone's had different periods in their life when they're putting in so much effort and focus and trying to achieve their goals, and I think burning out is a real thing, especially for me. And so if you don't have time to reset and kind of reconnect with yourself, the land, nature, whatever it may be that makes you happy, it can kind of be, a recipe for disaster, because you almost start to lose a little bit of inspiration. And, I don't want that to happen to myself.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's so true. Because, making wine is demanding, and it's challenging, and no day is similar to the past day, and it's not a recipe, it's not a formula.
No, exactly. And it's really 7 days a week, even if one of my old mentors, he said, you just be prepared that, this is a 7 day a week job. And, it doesn't matter if it's harvest or winter time. And granted, there are slower times than not, but when it's slower, we're usually trying to use that time wisely to be planning and for the, upcoming season and bottlings and all this sort of stuff. So there really is no rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's just intense at harvest, but, you mentioned bottling. There's dealing with getting your glassware,
right.
your bottles, your labels, your corks, everything.
Yep. All the pieces that make it work.
So you told us that the winery location is open on the weekends now and for events, and then the tasting room, is that open most of the week or just weekends as well?
That's going into, now we're kind of getting into the nice season here. That's a 7 day a week deal out in there in Carmel Valley, and then the weekends kind of at the winery.
If you're hanging out in the Carmel area, the tasting room was really convenient and a lot of fun. But I'm guessing that drive out there would be lovely to the winery location.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to come out there and have a little picnic, and we have snacks and amenities for people who forgot to bring a picnic. But it is just so beautiful and so nice. Depending what your vibe is, if you want to be around more people and more energy, Carmel Valley's great if you really want to kind of be out amongst the vineyards and nature and really kind of check out like the barrel room and the tanks and stuff. It's really cool to taste at the winery and bring a picnic along.
Well, Russell, next time we are in Monterey County, we're going to come visit you down in Arroyo Seco and check that out.
I would love it.
Well, we thank you so much for doing this with us today, Russell. It's been so fun to get to know you. And I'm just so excited about the future, that you have such an eye on the future. I love that. I also really love that you started this as a boy and you're still going strong. And I think that's really fun. And I hope your little guy gets the same bug you did someday, and daughter too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your guys' time today.
Oh, absolutely. We were just so thrilled to have you on. And, especially for me, I've known your wines for so long. So it's really good to get to know the person behind the label, as we like to say.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Cheers to you, Russell. Sip, sip, hooray.
Sip, sip, hooray. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mary Babbitt, it's folks like Russell Joyce who just inspire me and make me want to go out and accomplish so much. I mean, he's got so many things going on, but he's got such a great approach to it too. And I love how he has really invested in where he's basically spent all of his life. And he's also invested in making it, more accessible and while preserving the history of the region.
Yeah, he believes in the Monterey County area and the great wines that it produces. And I love that he's adding some fun varietals like Albarino and Gamay to the mix. I also, like you, really admire his work ethic and his value systems. He's got his head on straight. So good for Russell, and his wines are beautiful. Absolutely. I don't know if we mentioned that along the way, but they're great wines.
They really are. And it's just fun to go taste. It really is. His staff there is really terrific and fun. And if you just check out their Instagram, which is Joyce Wine Co, you'll see they have a lot of fun. And that's what wine is all about, having fun and bringing people together.
And that's what our Sip Sip Hooray podcast is all about too. And we want to thank you for listening today and encourage you, if you liked what you heard, to share it with your friends, to subscribe and to follow us on social media, to give us a rating, a positive rating if you liked it, and just help spread the word about Sip Sip Hooray.
Yeah, so give us a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And you can also find us on social. We are at Sip Sip Hooray Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And then you can head over to our website, sipsiphooraypodcast.com, for show notes from today. And you'll also find all of our past episodes where you could, if you're in the mood, binge on a few and catch up with what we've been doing.
Okay, Mary Orland. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Sip, sip, hooray.
Cheers to you, Mary Babbitt. Sip, sip, hooray.